In the Wall Street Journal, there are allegations that the Cuban regime has entered into a multi-billion-dollar agreement to allow Chinese intelligence services to operate on the island. With its close proximity of approximately 100 miles from American shores, this partnership raises concerns about Chinese Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping gaining unprecedented access to sensitive U.S. communications. This includes critical targets such as military bases and naval traffic. Given this emerging communist threat, it is imperative for the Biden administration to address and acknowledge the significance of the situation. If confirmed, this escalation by Beijing and Havana represents a significant provocation and security concern, not only for the United States but also for the entire Western Hemisphere, where freedom is at stake. This is not the first instance of Havana allowing hostile powers to conduct surveillance activities against the U.S. in our own vicinity. The Castro regime previously hosted similar facilities in collaboration with the Soviet Union, and later with Russia after the USSR's dissolution. However, the emerging partnership between Cuba and China poses a distinct and immediate threat to our national security, reminiscent of the tensions during the Cold War. If this situation is not effectively addressed, it will only demonstrate American vulnerability to an increasingly assertive China. Within the United States, the Cuban regime actively invests significant resources into concealing its true, anti-American stance, and presenting itself as a benign and progressive government. Unfortunately, President Biden's appointee for Cuba policy, Juan S. Gonzalez, who serves as the senior director for the Western Hemisphere at the National Security Council, has been advocating for a thaw in U.S.-Cuban relations. This stance raises doubts about the effectiveness of the U.S. embargo on Cuba and the possibility of reversing Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. Before going further, let's understand Cuba, its strategic importance, and why it is important for China and U.S. Cuba, officially known as the Republic of Cuba, is an island country located in the northern Caribbean Sea, at the confluence of the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean. It is situated just 90 miles south of the Florida Keys, making it the largest Caribbean island and one of the closest points to the United States. Cuba has a population of approximately 11.3 million people, with Havana as its capital and largest city. The country has a diverse population, influenced by its history of indigenous, European, African, and Asian heritage. Cuba's economy is predominantly state-controlled, following a socialist model. The government exercises significant control over key sectors, including healthcare, education, and industry. While the economy has experienced challenges and inefficiencies, Cuba boasts achievements in education and healthcare, with high literacy rates and a well-regarded healthcare system. Cuba has historically been engaged in various sectors of international trade. Its main exports include tobacco, sugar, medical products, nickel, and rum. The tourism industry also plays a crucial role in the Cuban economy, attracting visitors from around the world to its beautiful beaches, rich culture, and historic landmarks. Politically, Cuba is governed by the Communist Party, with a single-party system. The country has been led by the Castro family for decades, with Fidel Castro at the helm from the revolution in 1959 until 2008, followed by his brother Raúl Castro until 2018. Population: 11,338,138. GDP: 100.023 billion nominal. GDP rank: 62nd nominal. GDP per capita: increase 8,822 nominal. GDP per capita rank: 76th nominal. Human Development Index: 0.764 high. 83rd in IHEI. Labor force: 5,088,527. State sector 72.3%. Non-state sector 27.7%. Unemployment 2.6% 2017. Main industries: petroleum, nickel, cobalt, pharmaceuticals, tobacco, construction, steel, cement, agricultural machinery, sugar. Exports: $2.63 billion. Imports: $2.06 billion. Cuba's geographical location in the Caribbean Sea positions it in close proximity to the United States. Its strategic location provides opportunities for the U.S. to project power and influence in the region. The island serves as a potential platform for monitoring and responding to security threats, as well as supporting military and humanitarian operations. Furthermore, Cuba's proximity to the Gulf of Mexico and the Panama Canal gives it significant maritime importance, allowing the U.S. to protect its trade routes and ensure regional stability. Cuba has been a long-standing national security concern for the United States. During the Cold War, the Cuban government aligned itself with the Soviet Union and allowed the placement of Soviet nuclear missiles on its soil, which posed a direct threat to the U.S. mainland. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 highlighted the potential dangers of a hostile government in Cuba. While the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba has improved since then, ensuring that Cuba does not become a base for hostile actors or pose a security threat remains an important aspect of U.S. national security strategy. Cuba's economic potential and market represent an area of strategic importance for the United States. Cuba has natural resources, including oil, minerals, and agricultural products, that could be of interest to U.S. businesses. Additionally, as Cuba continues to undergo economic reforms, there is potential for increased trade and investment opportunities. By fostering positive economic relations with Cuba, the United States can enhance its own economic interests and potentially contribute to the development and stability of the island. The United States has expressed concerns over the political system and human rights situation in Cuba. Promoting democratic principles, human rights, and freedom of expression in Cuba aligns with U.S. values and interests. The strategic importance lies in supporting a political environment that respects individual rights and encourages stability, which can contribute to regional peace and security. Cuba has been a significant source of migration to the United States, particularly during periods of political and economic instability. Managing migration flows and addressing the humanitarian challenges associated with Cuban refugees has been an ongoing concern for the U.S. government. By engaging with Cuba and working towards a more stable and prosperous country, the United States aims to reduce the push factors that drive migration and improve the overall well-being of the Cuban people. Cuba's strategic location in the Caribbean holds importance for China's geopolitical aspirations. The Chinese government aims to expand its influence and presence in regions beyond Asia, including Latin America. Establishing a foothold in Cuba allows China to extend its reach into the Western Hemisphere and gains strategic advantages in terms of trade, resources, and geopolitical positioning. Cuba presents economic opportunities for China. The Cuban market offers potential for Chinese companies to invest in various sectors such as infrastructure, telecommunications, energy, and tourism. China sees Cuba as a potential trading partner and a gateway to access the wider Latin American market. By investing in Cuba's economic development, China can secure long-term economic benefits and strengthen its global economic presence. Cuba possesses natural resources, including oil, nickel, cobalt, and sugarcane, that are of interest to China. As the world's largest consumer of resources, China seeks to secure a stable supply of raw materials to support its industries and economic growth. Collaborating with Cuba in resource exploration and extraction allows China to diversify its resource acquisition channels. China aims to expand its political influence globally, and Cuba offers an opportunity to strengthen ties with a country that has a history of anti-US sentiment. By fostering closer political relations with Cuba, China can challenge US influence in the region and enhance its own standing as a global power. China's engagement with Cuba also aligns with its diplomatic strategy of cultivating alliances and partnerships across different regions. China and Cuba share similarities in terms of their political systems and ideology. Both countries have socialist backgrounds and maintain single-party governance structures. China sees Cuba as a like-minded partner that can help advance its ideological narratives and support its positions on global issues, such as sovereignty, multilateralism, and opposition to perceived U.S. dominance. In response to China's support for Cuba and its growing influence in the region, the United States can consider the following approaches. Recognize and address the strategic competition with China and Cuba and the broader region. This requires a comprehensive understanding of the battle between dictatorship and democracy on a global scale. Instead of trying to block Latin American partners from engaging with China, the U.S. should focus on promoting healthy and productive engagement. Emphasizing transparency can help prevent corrupt deals that benefit only a few elites, ensuring that partnerships with China benefit the entire country.
Support good governance initiatives by helping partners plan and evaluate investments in critical infrastructure, conduct fair public auctions, and strengthen legal systems and enforcement. This can protect partners from predatory practices and demonstrate the benefits of democratic governance and market principles.
In sensitive areas like the telecommunications industry, where China's influence can challenge sovereign decision-making, the U.S. should provide viable alternatives. Collaborating with democratic nations and their leading companies in the field, such as Nokia and Ericsson, can offer alternatives to Chinese systems. Institutions like the U.S. Development Finance Corporation and the Inter-American Development Bank can assist partner nations in financing such alternatives. Enhance support for cybersecurity measures to protect partners' citizens from threats posed by malign actors like China. Offering cybersecurity training and assistance, similar to the initiatives provided by the U.S. Southern Command, can help strengthen partners' privacy and security.